as a Tampa Bay Rays fandom that we know it doesn't go to the elder statesman. It doesn't go to whoever is making the most money. It goes to whoever earned it the year before. And
Flip
that
side.
is one of the coolest things. And Zack Littell earned it in 2025 if he's still with the team due to his 2024 production.
That was going to be my question. So real quickly, if Zack Littell is not on the team opening day 2025, who then gets the nod as the number one starter for that particular game?
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Rays, your daily podcast covering everything Tampa Bay Rays, from game analysis to player interviews. We've got you covered with all the latest news and insights. My name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano,
bringing you expert analysis and passionate discussions about our beloved Rays.
Whether you're a diehard fan who vividly remembers Longo's Game 162 just like us,
or you remember the early Devil Ray days of Wade Boggs and Carl Crawford,
we're here to break down every play, every trade, and every milestone. In fact, this is our 6th season covering the Rays daily.
And every season up till now, they've gone to the playoffs, but you can still grab your favorite Rays gear, settle in, and subscribe to our Locked On Rays YouTube channel and other podcast platforms. You can also find us on X and Instagram at Locked On Rays.
Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase.
All right, we have another player review episode. Earlier this week, we did Brandon Lau. Today, we have another guy that shined on the 2024 squad, one of the few. Zack Littell, starting pitcher. Zack Littell, who, according to Baseball Reference, generated the highest WAR, not just among pitchers, but all Rays players at 2.7. I'd like to see a guy in there who, generated a 6 or 7 WAR, but he has some legal issues right now, so can't really go with that one. But Zack Littell, just like all other player reviews, we talk about what went right with the guy, what went wrong with the guy, future with the team, and then we put pen to paper and give that player a grade. So, Ulises, what in your mind went right with Zack Littell?
Well, Zack Littell had an 8-10 record with a 3.63 ERA in 156 and a third innings pitched. He had a strikeout rate of 21.5, a walk rate of 4.7%. I feel like we've said this multiple times, and I'm going to say it multiple times throughout the season. He was the best starter for the Rays in 2024, and I don't think there's too much ifs and buts about it. I feel his stability, maybe his peak wasn't as high as other guys, but there is something to be told about giving you the ball and just having usually a quality start, just a guy that you know that you're going to be in the game most of the time, and I think that's what he provided.
He was the team leader in innings pitched. He had the lowest walk per 9 rate among Rays starters, also 94th percentile in all of baseball. We'll talk about the little injury issue that he had in August on the what went wrong side, but overall, very, very strong end to the season. If you look at his ERA and other metrics and numbers in September, it was like as the year waned on, he got better, which is a really good sign. Also, if you notice, pretty even splits versus lefties and righties. He gets guys to chase. That's been a factor for him. And I think part of that is his pitch profile. He's got a slider, a splitter, a four-seamer, a sinker, and a sweeper. 5 pitches, where a couple years ago, I think he only had 3 pitches. And what's noticeable to me when you watch him and you look at some of the advanced metrics, it's you have the slider and sweeper moving in total opposite directions of the split, four-seamer, and sinker, which is able to keep hitters off guard. And just generally what I like about Zack Littell, he is so unheralded, such a go about his business guy, such a appreciate the moment and opportunity guy, because he was, in a way, sort of like Jeffrey Springs a couple years ago. Oblivious, 40-man roster crunch DFA candidate. He goes from a reliever that nobody knew about, and he wasn't that good of a reliever, to a Rays starter and the savior of the rotation back in 2023, as some would say and suggest. And he's continued that track and then some in 2024. So it wasn't just like, all right, he was good for 80 innings, but does he have anything left in the tank? Can he keep it up without breaking down and having other guys figure him out? No, he's just continued to go about his business and improve. And that is something I think that should be revered about Mr. Littell.
100%. Yeah, the story is definitely there. You talked about the arsenal. Those 5 pitches, each one is at least 5% or higher. So that makes it a little bit more difficult when you're at the box and saying, what is he going to throw me? Like, because if you have 5 pitches, but 2 of them are like 1%, 2%, like, okay, you can just take those out. But it's really interesting. And also, it's not the 4-seamer that is the one that's hot, that's pitched the most in hit. It's the slider. Isn't that cool? Like, it's the slider, then the split finger, and then the 4-seamer for him, from 34.8 to 23.2, and then to 22%. Like, the 4-seamer is his third most used pitch, which is, I think, very neat, especially for a guy that came from being a reliever to a starter. That, I think, tells you what he's on the mound. He's trying to keep you off your toes. He's trying to just kind of not be so obvious, not be so direct. And I think that's one of the things that has made him so successful in this transition from the bullpen to the starters. Because let's be honest, in 2023, when he was in the bullpen, it wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. It was you roll back the tape. When he was in the bullpen last year, I was like, he needs to go.
Yeah. And usually that's not the way it works. Is if you're bad in the bullpen, you don't get promoted to starter. Usually it's you're back in the minor leagues or with another organization, which was, I mean, he's been on a lot of different organizations and within a short amount of time. So, and yeah, that's interesting about the slider being the most used pitch. I think what Zack Littell and what he said in previous interviews and stories and reports is that, and I mean, we kind of notice it by he's more of a pitch to contact type individual where he's not afraid to throw it in the zone. He's not afraid to give up contact, and he just hopes and prays, and oftentimes it works out in his favor, that it is generated into an out. He's not, I don't get the impression that he's a nibbler, that he's just able to throw all his pitch for strikes and kind of harness them in a way to get over the plate and not force walks and not force the opposition to say, yeah, he's throwing a slider, I'm going to lay off that one.
And talking about being a contact pitcher, I think that leads me into the what went wrong. But first, we got to tell folks something very important.
Yes, we do. All right, it is time to tell you about FanDuel. NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. That is America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So good, I will repeat it again. Get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's all at FanDuel.com.
It's about that time of year where you should be doing something good for others, but guess what? You should also be doing something good for yourself, and you can do that exact same thing at The Joint. There is no scheduling hassle. Your body is hurting. Your body is aching for this. Well, guess what? At The Joint, you don't need an appointment. You just walk in there. You get the care that you need. Same day, no hassle. Walk in, and it's convenient for you whenever you need it. It doesn't matter if you're getting tackled out there like an NFL player. No. Maybe your job is getting tackled mentally and your neck is a little bit stiff. Well, guess what? At The Joint, you can get that figured out, and their prices are affordable. Okay, they've cut out the middleman. There's no insurance hassles. You just straightforward, budget-friendly care to keep you at the top of your game. And today, if you're a Bucks fan and you're a Rays fan, guess what? You can get your first visit for $19. That's less than $20, people. I mean, you can do this. You can head over to Buccaneers.com, check out the contest and promotion section under the Fans tab, and download this offer right now. A great deal for great fans. Head to thejoint.com to find your nearest Tampa area location.
All right, Ulises, you mentioned, good segue there. We talked about what went right with Zack Littell. What went wrong? I think you hit on it to some extent, the contact rate and giving up that contact for sometimes hits, sometimes home runs, sometimes a little in between.
Well, that slider is getting hammered pretty often. 10 home runs he gave up on the slider. And if you look at the batting average received in each of his 5 offerings, slider, it was at a 257 clip. Split finger at 258. Four-seamer, 245. Sinker, 265. Sweeper, 406.
Oh, boy.
He's going to get hit. It's not put away stuff. It's like you're saying, he's not afraid to pitch to contact, which is good if you have really good defense behind you. But we have seen when he's not good, the hits just keep piling up.
Right.
They just keep going. They just keep going because he's not a guy that's going to walk people. Okay, he's actually in the 94th percentile of walk rate, like you said. So he's very good at not giving them up, but he will give up hits.
Yes.
So the whip that was a 1.25, which is good. You know, it's all right. It's nothing to write home about. It's mostly the hits.
Yeah, and I think ultimately the walk rate is what saved him. Instead of giving up a 3-run home run or a grand slam or a 2-run home run, it's a solo shot. Or runners at second and third, you don't have runners at second and third. You maybe have a runner at first, and then you give up a hit, and you can live with that. And you see the ERA and the FIP and the ERA plus, and it still works out in his favor. But yeah, the BABIP is a concern. 312 batting average on balls in play. If you look at all the numbers on Savant, the average exit velocity in the blue, whiff percentage in the blue, strikeout percentage in the blue, barrel percentage in the blue, hard hit percentage about middle of the pack, ground ball percentage 7th percentile in the league. And then, I mean, we can talk about extension and all that. But I think you also hit on a point is he has a lot of pitches, but he absolutely is not going to wow you with velocity.
Yeah, he's not going to wow you with that. And it's a tough watch when things are going wrong with him. And I know that's an easy thing to say with any other pitcher, but with him, because he doesn't have that strikeout stuff, it can get really just, okay, it's down the middle. Okay, it's right in zone. Like, it's going to get hit quite a lot. And all of his pitches get hit. I told you, I mean, the lowest batting average was the four-seamer at 245. In today's game, in 2024, a guy that hits 245, you're like, okay.
That's the 275 batting average back in 95.
Or when we grew up, yeah, it's like a 270. Now it's 245, and we're just talking batting averages. I mean, we're not even going in depth into WOBA or anything like that. But that is something that went wrong. Another thing that I would, I can't judge him too much on it, but I mean, it is a player review. He did go down in the middle of August for a little bit. It could have been a phantom IL. We don't know. Whenever they say shoulder fatigue, I'm always going to grab my tinfoil hat and put it on for a little bit, because he was the Rays' leading pitcher in innings pitched. So you're thinking, hey, maybe they're like, let's give him off 2 weeks, just like a little vacay, and go down. But hey, if Zack Littell wants to come on here and say, hey, no, that was legit. Hey, Zach, you're invited, babe.
Yeah, he went down in mid-August, returned on September 1st. I read reports that his velo at around that period was down roughly 2 miles per hour on average. So maybe there is something to the legitimate shoulder fatigue versus a phantom IL stint. And we also have to remember he's got a reliever background and he had never pitched this amount of innings. Not many Rays pitchers nowadays, or anybody in baseball pitches the amount of innings that he was able to miss or throw out there despite missing, 18 days or whatnot. So yes, I do think that has to be mentioned as well. All right, we'll get to Zack Littell's future with the team, which is an interesting question as well as the grade. But first, we have to tell the audience something very important.
We have told you many times the best place to get tickets for comedy, concerts, sports, theater, whatever you want. And that place is Gametime. They've got flash deals, which means that you can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. And they've got zone deals too, which means, hey, you just pick a zone, an area, and then the algorithm will say, hey, these are the seats for you, and you get a discount. But of course, my favorite, seat views. You get a panoramic view of your seat. What you're going to experience, you're going to see it right on your phone before you hit buy. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets and more with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Zack Littell's future with the team. So this past year, he was making $1.85 million. He could more than double that in 2025. MLB Trade Rumors projects him to coin $4.8 million. And there's also been swirlings about that perhaps the Rays sell high on Zack Littell. And with the bevy of pitchers, we think, between all the guys returning, Jeffrey Springs being healthy, Shane McClanahan being healthy, Mason Montgomery on the come up, maybe this is a prime opportunity to quote unquote sell high on Zack Littell to get that much needed power of the middle of the order bat, or some sort of bat that doesn't strike out that much, that can give you a couple dingers and that can get on base. I'm sure there's one out there that can be leveraged, but that is the ultimate question: is, are the Rays comfortable with paying Zack Littell that amount of money, and or are they okay with, this is the time to trade him because he's not going to get any better than this, we think, based on some of the under the hood stuff as far as what went wrong with him.
I think so. I think if there's a guy to be sold at a higher than thought value, it is Zack Littell. I feel like he had a terrific season. During the season, I think we talked about this maybe last year or earlier this season. The expected stuff, the under the hood stuff, talk about that during the season, because you're like, hey, this guy can still pop off. Fine. Right. I'm all good with that. After the season, I don't want to hear expected stuff to judge a guy. Like, the results got there, right? So the results were there for Zack Littell. That you can't deny that. The results were there. Are there issues and worries about what could happen? Yeah, I think so. I think there are worries. And because the results usually matter more to most teams out there, this is a time where you could get something from Zack Littell that you wouldn't have ever thought you could get. Now, I'm not saying you're going to get a fourth, a cleanup hitter because of Zack Littell, but you could get something interesting that could help you out, especially knowing two things. Number one, the Rays have the most depth they've had in a long time. And although they're coming back from injury, a lot of them, it's still really good quality arms.
Yes.
And a lot of them don't have Tommy John worries. Reed, Shane Baz, Shane McClanahan, Drew Rasmussen, Jeffrey Springs. Like, that's four guys you for sure know ain't going to get Tommy John. That's pretty good to know. So that's why you could deal Zack Littell. That's one way. Another way of you could deal, it's like what we talked about on Wednesday with the roof thing. If it's not insurance, if it's not shared revenue, and it's the Rays organization ponying up to either fix the roof or put money somewhere, well, that doesn't leave a lot of room for free agent acquisitions, and you need new bats. And a way you could do that would be saying, hey, what's our depth? Rotation? Maybe we deal Zack Littell and get a couple bats, or Zack Littell and company to get a couple bats.
Maybe I'm wrong on this, but hear me out. I think Zack Littell, what he put forth in 2024, that's the best it's going to ever be. I don't see him necessarily surpassing what he did this past season. I look at that as a career year. Not saying that he would be considerably worse and have a Aaron Savali-like downfall, but when I look at Zack Littell, I think going forward the next couple of years, if he's able to keep up the innings load, so to speak, 3.8 to 4.4 ERA, something in that neighborhood where, again, and potential is a little bit of a scary word, but you look at all the other Rays starters and their stuff, their combination, their age, you bank on, you salivate at what Taj Bradley can be, what Ryan Pepio can be, what Shane Baz can be, what McClanahan can be, even Mason Montgomery and Jeffrey Springs and Drew Rasmussen. Whereas Aaron Savali, and maybe that's just who he is, you don't, in his arsenal and the fact that he doesn't throw 98, 99 and all that you just say you're about selling as high as you can. Having said that, other teams are smart, other organizations are smart, and they may look at Littell the same way and say, yeah, we know he was great this past year, but he's not going to be able to do this again and again and again. And that's what we're paying him for and acquiring him for. So I think it might have to be a situation where you combine him with a prospect or two or some other pieces, maybe a 2-for-1, 3-for-1 deal. I mean, you can get creative with all that.
You're still thinking about Aaron Savali. You mentioned Savali instead of Littell. That's funny. You're still thinking about Aaron. Yeah.
Yep,
hey,
still thinking about him.
I mean, who wouldn't? I agree 100% with you, man. I think this is his career. This is his 2012 Jeff Keppinger year. This is his 2011 James Shields year. This is it. That doesn't mean that his rest of the career is going to be horrible or awful or anything, but every career is going to have a peak. I think this is his peak, and I don't think it would be a bad idea to sell on this peak for Zack Littell. Like, this is not a guy that you're going to be building around. In your rotation, like you said, you've got Pepio and Baz and Bradley and McClanahan and Rasmussen and Springs and Montgomery. That's 7 names that are better suited to be built around, built upon around than Zack Littell. So, having said that, in this scenario, and this is why we try to be as fair as possible. If something is awesome, we're going to say it's awesome. If something is not awesome, we're going to tell you it's bleeping crap.
Yes.
You can go to the other outlets that are only seal clappers. You can do that. We don't do that. And we never will. Zack Littell, if he's in the opening day roster, this man deserves the opening day nod.
I agree with you. And I would also say that, I mean, I guess I'm being honest here. I would maybe be a little bit disappointed, not that he's on the opening day roster, but that the Rays weren't able to shop him around for a bat, because that is one starter that I would be willing to quote unquote part with. And who knows, maybe they find other avenues to acquire offense, but I think this is the low-hanging fruit, so to speak. But I think based on what he did this past year, and his drive and how he goes about his business and the numbers, I mean, team leader in WAR, innings pitched, everything else. Again, it's probably not going to, sell you extra tickets as opposed to a Shane McClanahan or somebody like that. But Sometimes it's just about who earned it from the past season, and I think that would be a fair case for sure.
And one of the best things I think as a fandom that we have is that knowledge. And I really hope that this never changes in the Rays organization. And if there's anybody in the Rays organization watching this or listening to this, I hope you take this to heart. One of the best things about this organization is that opening day nods are given not by hierarchy. They're given by who deserved it from their production last year. I say this all the time. In 2010, James Shields had such a horrible season that he was called James Yields, okay, across the fan base. And he was the veteran. And guess what? In 2011, he was not the opening day roster. But in 2011, he had a terrific season, even better than David Price, who was the up-and-coming guy. And guess what? In 2012, boom, it goes back to him. Like, I feel like that is one of the best things we have as a niche fandom. Like, everybody, we can all have like little things that we like about our organization. That is one of the coolest things I think we have
at Steinbrenner Field or wherever it is. I don't know. I don't even know if they open the season at home or what. I've not looked that far into what the schedule is. So
I know they have to be. I know their first game was March 27th, which does seem like it would be at the Trop.
Yeah.
Who would it be if not Zack Littell?
I'm guessing it has to come down to Taj Bradley or Ryan Pepio.
I would actually think it would have to come down from Tosh Bradley to Shane Baz. I think Shane Baz had a better overall season than Tosh Bradley, but the peak of Tosh was so good that you might have to give him the ball, and he was there more of the season than Shane Baz. But that's a good question for Taj's player review and for Shane Baz. Now, people, get your red pen out. Kevin, get your red pen out.
I've got my red pen out.
Okay. What do you grade Zack Littell's 2024 season?
All right. Career year for Zack Littell, of course. Everything we said, I have percolating an A-, like a 92.
Nice. Okay. First two player reviews, we are right on check. I give him a 90.
All right.
I mean, there's also something to be said about expectations and results. I mean, the results were way better than what I expected from Zack Littell. So that also is a bias, but I think that has to be taken into account too. Like, who were you as a player for the fan base before you threw a pitch in the season, and then afterwards? I think you cannot say Zack Littell didn't deserve an A-.
I will tell you, next season we need more A's and A+. I know the Rays are traditionally, historically, obviously a team that is more sum of the parts than driven about by a couple of stars like teams in the World Series. A lot of stars, I guess I should say. But we need to have we need somebody that can put up a 4.5, 5.4. That would be nice.
Yeah,
if
but
you want to get 86 wins.
Yeah, but that guy's in handcuffs right now.
Junior, you're up next. You're the guy, I guess.
Junior, you're the guy, man. You're the guy.
Or Yandy again. Well, he doesn't really play a position, so that makes it more challenging, or not as much of a position as he used to. So, all right, that'll do it. Put it in the comments what you would give Zack Littell, and if you think he'll be traded this offseason or not. That'd be a good prop bet question as well for our Jeopardy episode, if you want to put that out there. In the meantime, thank you for making Locked On Rays your first listen today. For your second, find Locked On MLB. Prepare for the Fall Classic with our buddy Sully, who has it all covered every single day. You can find Locked On MLB on the YouTubes or wherever you find those podcasts.